Alexsis Wintour, and this presentation is submission number 36, discussing fostering trustworthy data sharing, establishing data foundations in practice. Data wields colossal power. It's an asset which never erodes and is being produced at an exponential rate. We create 1.7 megabytes of data per second for every person on Earth, and yet we analyse less than 0.5% of it, and we share even less. But it's knowledge, and knowledge should be shared. So with such power comes responsibility. So the question is, how do we share data safely? The extraordinary situation of the global pandemic has turned the spotlight with glaringly bright focus on exactly this issue. And it's crystal clear that there's an urgent need to accelerate the sharing of health data among multiple different and potentially competing stakeholders, for example, health providers, researchers, public health authorities. However, the danger is that such data sharing will de facto enable extensive surveillance programs and irredeemably undermine fundamental rights and freedoms of patients and individuals. The final contribution the 21st century makes to humanity is dictated in part by the shape of its digital infrastructure. Technology has a significant role to play, but alone it's not the answer. Good stewardship of data is crucial for human flourishing. Our current infrastructure is influenced by the framework in which it operates, including by the tech industry's values and business models, and by the critical influence of government policymakers and researchers to inform and enable these models, partly through making rules and also through establishing standards. Attempts to find legal, ethical and repeatable mechanisms or structures to support this have not yet succeeded, although different models are now emerging through data institutions. These are organisations whose sole purpose is to govern data on behalf of others. The possible designs for these organisations is in hot debate, but some common early good practices are emerging, such as that they should encourage more independent stewardship through oversight of how the data processing takes place. And they should also advocate for transparent decisions to operate in the open with support for equal representation for all stakeholders. In addition to this, any model creating the opportunity for collective decision-making, which includes for a voice of the individual to be heard in equal measure, will also increase trust and therefore incentivize data sharing. So how can we facilitate large-scale, multi-party, potentially international sharing of data to inform our decisions? In this presentation, the aim is to demonstrate why data foundations as a type of data institution are well suited to the needs of multi-party regulated data sharing initiatives, not only in the Channel Islands, but also elsewhere. The advantage of the Data Foundations model is that it leverages existing regulations, legislation, and builds on established precedent. Creating these in practice can be via two legal routes. A registered data foundation as a legal entity, and after a review of different jurisdictions, the Channel Islands framework was found to be particularly appealing in terms of its transparency, its structure, and its status. Or to choose to do so as a functional data foundation established through a legal structure outside of the islands. The definition of a data foundation that we used in our white paper is as follows. So what are the components of good governance demonstrated by a Channel Islands Data Foundation? Effective multi-party data sharing requires 6 fundamental components for good governance. Specifically in our model, we believe that the following are key to facilitate trustworthy data sharing, and we maintain that data foundations provide a valuable framework because they satisfy these. The first is a comprehensive rulebook, which can be founded through the Charter as well as through the rules and regulations of the Foundation. And this details the usage, the sharing and the reusage of personal and non-personal data. And it identifies the objectives, the roles, the workflows, and includes a robust ethical framework, which should be made available publicly. The second is a strong independent governance body, which can be established through the role of the Guardian for the Foundation. In this model, the role of the Guardian forms a really critical element in providing the independent data steward for advanced and optimal data governance models. The role of the Guardian is a unique requirement in the Channel Islands and is peculiar to these types of structures. The third is an inclusive decision-making body which can be set up via the Council of the Foundation. It can engage participants and data holders, and it also can represent the interests of data subjects as they can be represented on the Council. Fourth, flexible membership can be facilitated through amendments to the Charter of the Foundation. The fifth is a trust-enhancing technical and organisational infrastructure, and this can be established before any data are transferred to the Foundation, and it will only activate the sharing once a specific legitimate purpose has been identified. The sixth and final component is a well-regulated structure, and this is provided in the Channel Islands because the qualified member is regulated. As mentioned earlier, a foundation can be established through a registered data foundation incorporated as a legal entity in the Channel Islands, or alternatively, where this would be impractical, as a functional data foundation established through a legal structure outside of the Channel Islands, which mirrors the key elements of these foundation laws. In terms of structures that give rise to legal entities under English law, there are various potential options for functional data foundations, including companies limited by guarantee, CLG, cooperative societies, co-ops, and community benefit societies, CBSs. CBSs and CLGs appear to be strong candidates for establishing functional foundations outside of the Channel Islands, as they seem to mirror key elements of foundation laws, although they're not such an elegant solution. For instance, a CLG could meet the data foundation's governance requirements by establishing a comprehensive rulebook, which would be founded through its Articles of Association or Incorporation. An inclusive decision-making body could be set up via its board of directors, which could include an independent chairperson. A flexible membership could be facilitated through membership processes outlined by its Articles of Association, for example, for granting and terminating membership. A trust-enhancing technical and organisational infrastructure could be established before any data are transferred. And it doesn't require any initial capital or endowment, so this is an advantage of that type of structure. A well-regulated structure is provided as CLGs are regulated entities, for example, under the Companies Act 2006. Yet the unique two-layered board structure of the Data Foundation, the separate layer for management, the Council of the Foundation, and a further layer, the Guardian, cannot be replicated under English law. A key aspect that needs further consideration is how a CLG could provide a strong, independent governance body. And the key question, therefore, is how this cornerstone role could be generated through the CLG. One option to be considered is that this could be generated and specified through the rulebook of the Functional Data Foundation, for example, via the articles of a CLG. To ensure that such a prescription would be sufficient to give rise to a guardian is a crucial area for further research, and one that requires expertise from specialists in legal structures under English law as well as foundations law in the Channel Islands. Designing trust into structures requires that we look beyond the minimum standards prescribed by law and outline some universal principles that unite all data foundations. We propose all decisions related to their construction and operation should be guided by the following 7 key design principles. All data is relevant, personal as well as non-personal data. This is because we see personal data and non-personal data not as a binary concept. Data shared, used, and reused as part of data sharing initiatives may become personal data, for example, through the purpose of use or through data linkage. Data stewards are independent. The Guardian generates the necessary tensions in order to ensure legal and ethical compliance. Expected standards of good practice for data governance are specified by a code of conduct. And this code sets out core principles, practices, and responsibilities for data governance, which is driven by data ethics. Self-regulation is key. Internal compliance mechanisms are crucial for ensuring that expected standards for data governance are achieved. Monitoring is the heartbeat. Audit and assurance processes create transparency and accountability. Sustainability. Data foundations must be able to maintain themselves at an acceptable level for their lifespan. And last, that accreditation will stimulate market growth. Certified data foundations are likely to have a competitive advantage, and this is a very key development objective for us in the future. So, to conclude, we believe data foundations offer a robust, workable model for data governance in practice. Through their unique structures, they bake in tensions to increase trust. And for this model to become battle-hardened, in addition to creating prototypes, a key area for further exploration is how to establish one or more standardized ways in which the role of the Guardian for functional data foundations could be created, and which aligns with the statutory role prescribed by foundations laws of the Channel Islands. Thank you for listening to our concept. If you'd like to know more about the work that we're doing, please do get in touch. Our contact details are at the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions, we'd be delighted to answer them. We are actually working on the first prototype in Jersey and working with the team there. So if you would like to have any more information about that, while some of it's confidential, we would hopefully be able to share with you at a later date how that work's going. I'd like to leave you with a few words from Tim Berners-Lee, writing in Time magazine in July this year about how we need to change the way we share personal data. He said, let's free data from silos and put it to work for our personal benefit and the greater good. Let's collaborate more effectively and innovate in ways that benefit humanity and revitalize economies. Let's build these new systems with which people will work together more effectively. And let's inspire businesses and governments and developers to build powerful application platforms that work for us, not just for them. Let's focus on making the post-COVID-19 world much more effective than the pre-COVID-19 world. And he said our future depends on it.